So I got a few pictures actually that I'm going through here. Just to fast forward through Kentucky history. So I'm reading this book and it's called How the West Was Lost. And the whole point about it is Kentucky was the first West, right? You got 13 colonies and then they start crossing the Appalachian Mountains, and Kentucky was a state that they would cross into. So once they had made that decision to cross over the Appalachian Mountains into French or Spanish or Native American territory, that was the decision to say, fuck it, let's just go all the way to the West Coast. So that's where the manifest destiny began. So the westward expansion, the first West, would be Kentucky. And actually, it kind of makes a joke because it would be the Old West, whereas the New West would be the Kentucky's Old West. They call it the Old West, but it's actually newer than the New West is, or the Old West is newer than the New West. So Kentucky was the New West, and then eventually, Arizona and out farther there is the Old West, and the New West is actually older. Anyways, so Kentucky is right there, at a very important time period in the American, the history of America. And it was there for several moments. First, it was the Native Americans. Then you had Daniel Boone, and then you had Henry Clay. And so the argument that this book is given is that from the Native Americans to Daniel Boone, it was upward. Things were doing better. Daniel Boone had to learn to get along with everybody. He was part British, part American, part Native. They had to have communal lands. He wasn't like a bloody savage just going around killing everybody. He had to get along with, peaceful people who were willing to get along with him. When it came to the land grants and how to fight for land, part of the fight was saying, we have a house here, we've cultivated all these plants, we've raised a thing of corn, we have a permanent settlement here, this is our land, we've fenced off this spot, we've been taking care of this spot, nobody else has been here. Now, unfortunately for the aristocrats such as Henry Clay, they would just buy like whole tracts of land, right? If you're like some sort of general or leader in the American Revolution here in Breckenridge, the very first major family that came in here had a 94,000 acre tract of land. Who the fuck needs 94,000 acres? And I bet you, if you have 94,000 acres, you probably need a couple of darkies, right? Some African slaves in order to do all the damn work for you. You think these aristocratic fucking bastards are going to get up and do this shit? So that's the argument of the book, was that Daniel Boone represented the height of the self-reliant man, the person who would stand up and, Daniel Boone was a man, right? He would raise his own garden, his own crops, ventured into the wilderness, could talk to friend and foe alike, and he understood democracy, and he was just, he's impossible to get around. I've tried hating him, and really, I keep coming back to him, even if I dislike some of the things that he does. He loses all of his land holdings, and so that actually humanizes him. So let's get through these pictures, right? Who is this? This is Tecumseh, the Shawnee war chief, who fought against the Empire and the British for a long ass time. The Panther in the sky. So when you want to talk about early Kentucky, starts out with the Shawnee, and the number one of the Shawnee is Tecumseh, and he's got a brother, Tenskwatawa, the prophet, and his father. We don't know where Tecumseh was born, but his father, Puckshinwa, and probably his mother, was born in Kentucky, probably at a Skippakithiki. So Tecumseh could have been born there too. He was in some of the raids that happened in Kentucky. So Tecumseh, if you're a part of Kentucky or Ohio, you should definitely know who he is. And I don't know if you looked at him closely, that last picture, but he had a nose ring, but he didn't have the ears. All the Shawnee pictures that I see, he also had that weird British hat or that weird English hat. So here he's got, like a headband with the beads, Native American, right, feathers. And then they have a nose ring, which Tecumseh had a nose ring, but a lot of the Shawnee would cut their ears. They would cut just the outer ends of the ears and droop it long and then put, some sort of piercing underneath of it. You got a little cut here, but it doesn't show, like the bigger cuts. Hopefully, I think I pulled up one that's got a bigger cut into the ear. Because Simon Girty fought with the Shawnee. And so Tecumseh, these are the only pictures we have, are the pictures that, other people have drew up of him. So you got more of an earlobe being cut right here. So that's actually more what it looked like. They had long, droopy ears because they would just cut the outer end of the skin, and it just seems weird. I've seen some natives with ponytails, with long. Why would you put, even with the nose ring? What are you doing? You know what are you trying to say there? It's like you're a bull, like you're just a brute, you're an animal. Like, yeah, I get a tattoo, a face tattoo would do, just the same. And it's permanent too, but I don't know. It gives you something to grab onto. If you're a warrior, why do you want to give your enemy something they can just grab onto? Just grab a hold of your fucking ear and just rip it all to shit, right? Grab a hold of that nose ring and just fucking rip out your fucking nose. Grab a hold of someone's hair and just yank their hair and hold their scalp. So that's here we don't see it, but we see sort of a receding hairline. Again, it's a drawing, right? It was made in 2005, but it was of his idea, and that's all we have are our ideas of what the Native Americans look like. There are no pictures or movies or anything. There's today's depiction of it, and we got stereotypes, and so who knows? It could be just as stereotypical or not at all. This is supposed to be Puck Shinwa, Tecumseh's father. Again, with the feathers in the hair. He has a mohawk, shaved head. And he's got earrings, but it doesn't have the earlobes all stretched out to, stretched out to shit. And then Daniel Boone comes into Kentucky 1775. Okay, so 1774 is Harrod's Fort, Harrodsburg, the first white settlement in Kentucky. 1774, not 240 years ago. So 240 years ago is when white people first got here. Native Americans have been here for 14,000. So those Shawnee that you saw, that's the beginning of Kentucky. If there's one Native American tribe that is Kentucky, like just deep into the heart of Kentucky, like they had like permanent settlements, not just Anwanee and Chinoa and Eskipikithiki, but all over the place. There was no, even here in Breckenridge, McDaniels was murdered by the Shawnee. His wife was killed. His slave was killed. His friend and his wife and his baby were all killed by the Shawnee. There was a big Shawnee raid by the founder of Hardinsburg. William Hardin goes in, I think, 76 or 1786 or so, maybe before then, which would be about the same time that Abraham Lincoln's grandfather got shot by the Shawnees in Louisville. But they went to Illinois on Saline Creek for a battle against the Shawnee natives. So there's lots of Shawnee. It's the only ones in Breckenridge specifically that have been mentioned, usually just Indians, but Shawnee was the tribe that the William Hardin went to in the Battle of Saline Creek, and McDaniels, which there's a city named McDaniels today, a big city, or at least a bigger city than a lot of some of these smaller towns. It's got lots of there's a gas station, several gas stations, several restaurants. And so McDaniels is a city that was named after a man who was slain by the Shawnee. Daniel Boone himself wasn't ever killed, but his son was killed by the Shawnee at the Battle of Blue Licks. He had another son that was shot, and then he had a brother that was beheaded. So he's, given up a lot of family members, and that's one of my criticisms on him. He's, probably killed some Indians, let his family die, and, he was just, what a dickhead, right? But the more I learned about him, he lost his land holdings, he lost his, he also hated when anybody ever said that he was an Indian killer, because supposedly he only killed one ever in his entire life. I don't know if it's true, but when he gets kidnapped by Blackfish, which is a Shawnee war chief, he adopts Daniel Boone as his son. And he even comes back to the fort and saying, "Hey, son, I thought we had an agreement. Come back out here, son." And so Daniel Boone probably at that moment had a choice. Going to stick with the English, British/American colonist, or go along with, into the forest like he'd been trying to do his entire life. And at the end, you would think he would have won some of his land holdings. He was the first, he was there with Richard Henderson. He helped build the Wilderness Trail and did a lot for the beginning. First settlement, second settlement, successful permanent settlement in 1775. So Daniel Boone was a man. He was a badass. He was a big man, liked to go out in the woods by himself, would read Gulliver's Travels and some other smart books. He couldn't write worth shit, but evidently he was a fair person who, I don't see the there is some weird nostalgia than that, stupid Daniel Boone show. Really makes him out to be a bigger hero, I think, than what he was. But he lost all that land, eventually died somewhere in Missouri. So, in sort of the biggest, ultimate, ironic slap to the face, Daniel Boone eventually gets land in Kentucky, but in through Daniel Boone National Forest in that form. So it's with the in the boundary of Kentucky, established in 1937. So I'm not. Is that FDR? Who's not 1937? That's, I think, FDR, right? Named the Cumberland National Forest because it was the core region was called the Cumberland Purchase, but eventually they changed it, right? So 2.1 million acres, right? So 2,100,000 acres are contained in its current proclamation boundary. Now, the proclamation boundary and what the actual forest is actually two different things. So it's probably less than that. They're saying 706,000 acres are owned and managed by the U.S. Department of Agriculture Forest Service. So the United States Department of Agriculture controls, there's a lot of federal lands that's actually here in Kentucky, and the federal lands, not just where the FBI and the CIA and the military bases, Army Depot, Bluegrass Depot, where any of those are, but also where the U.S. Department of Agriculture owns the Daniel Boone National Forest. So that's the park rangers, right? So let's see. We can look at the history of it, but really it's just that he's Daniel Boone was able to get no land, but he was actually such a big guy, such a big icon to Kentucky history that they awarded this land to him, sort of, to his honor posthumously. And there's so here's the district. Actually, you can see the whole state, and you see how it's on the eastern side of Kentucky, how it's southeast, and it goes up like a really large swath almost to the top of Kentucky. So it's got it covers a ton of counties. It doesn't hit Lexington, and then you got Frankfort and Louisville. So it's totally on the eastern, southeastern side. So it's going to hit a lot of sort of rural counties and small towns and communities. But it's a national forest, right? So it's just forest for the public whenever they want to go camping or if they want to go, canoeing or whatever. You can't squat there or illegally hunt or illegally dig. But everybody that's around these Daniel Boone National Forest are really healthy. They're doing like really exciting exercise and whatnot. So that's there's a Moorhead district, Stanton district, Stearns district, Somerset district, London district, and a Redbird district. And if you see, the Redbird district is sort of this blob off to the side here. And Redbird was assassinated. He was killed. He was killed with his own tomahawk while he was sleeping, while he was in a cave. And so that's the Redbird district. And then you got this whole swath of forestry right up here. Red River Gorge is up here. Pioneer Weapons Hunting Area, not a tunnel. Just a bunch of different stuff, right? So Big South Fork, Natural Ark Scenic Area, General Burnside State Park, Beaver Creek Wilderness, Cane Creek. So anyways, he eventually gets some land, but he lost it through land deal. So how the fuck do you basically find Kentucky? You establish the first permanent settlement here and get none of the fucking land. Just shows you how fucked the land laws were. And why were the land laws fucked? Because you had aristocrats like Henry fucking Clay coming right behind him. So the thing with Daniel Boone was that he wasn't exactly polished. He wasn't Mr. fucking British man drinking his fucking sip of tea out of out of his cup. He liked walking out into the wilderness, being by himself, being one with nature, living off the land, not knowing what was going to happen to him from day to day. He loved the adventure, and that's probably the main push that kept pushing Daniel Boone back into Kentucky. But he loses all of his land and he dies in Missouri. So that's bullshit. And guess who else has some fucked up land issues? You have Abraham Lincoln's father. The reason why Abraham Lincoln moved out of Kentucky when he was 7 years old is because his father had lost the 3 farms that he bought in Kentucky. So Thomas Lincoln had 3 fucking farms. His father Abraham Lincoln, who got killed by the Shawnee, his father had a big ass piece of land. I think like 100,000 acres or so. So he had a big ass piece of acreage, and it's supposed to just go to the eldest. But why wouldn't the eldest just split it amongst everybody? But if he did take it all, that does leave him destitute, right? Just to figure out shit for himself. But he owned 3 farms. And because of Kentucky's land laws and all the bullshit and the crossing boundaries, and nobody had any consistent survey work, the land companies and the land corporations and the government kept on fucking people out of their land. And so they fucked Thomas Lincoln out of their land. They fucked Daniel Boone out of their land. And another ironic twist was, even though Abraham Lincoln was born and raised till he was 7, in Kentucky, and had no land, started out basically as a powerless, poorless pauper, a sharecropper, a slave for his pappy. The Homestead Acts would be instituted by Lincoln by the pressure of the Free Soil Party, who was also right next to the abolitionists, probably the same folks. But because they wanted, they thought that they could pressure Lincoln to do what he wanted, and they did. They pressured Lincoln to get what they wanted out of him. They got him to issue the Emancipation Proclamation, turning the war into a boundary issue, into a slavery issue, a moral issue, which Lincoln was totally right about. And then he also was able to get 160 acres passed out to any person in the Union who wanted one and just signed an application. So he also issued the Thanksgiving Day too. He's done some bad shit, don't get me wrong. He killed all those Lakota, and even the Homestead Act, he's taken Native American land. But this is the only land reform act that the United States has. And the land reform was, here's 160 acres out west somewhere. Go claim it, sit on it, take care of it, and prove it. And if you can take care of it for 5 years, that land is yours free and clear. Here's an application, pay the small filing fee, and you're done. And you get yourself a chunk of land. So that had to have raised a lot of people who didn't have land into the landowning class. And when America first started, that was the only people that could vote, were people that were landowners. Not just white men, but white male landowners, white male property owners. So no women, blacks, and lots of white men were excluded from the original American democracy. If you were a white man, but you were renting or sharecropping on someone else's property, you get no vote. You get no say-so. Only if you own the land. If you own the land, you got to vote. If you didn't own the land, get fucked. So that's some sort of irony there. It's I don't know. It makes me feel somewhat better, but ultimately we still have a Henry Clay Kentucky. We still have an aristocratic, stuck-up, arrogant, fucking snob town Kentucky, and that's not good. It's fucking bullshit. The self-reliant spirit of Daniel Boone. Let's keep a hold of that, okay? He picked up the traits of the Native Americans and of the British and of the Americans. He has all this, sort of culmination of all these different roots, and it makes a better type of Kentucky man that I recognize. When I look at the, sort of rough and tumble Kentuckian, they most likely, to me, look more like a Daniel Boone, if not just an outright, Shawnee. Which they actually were better at agriculture. They owned dogs, they were raising corn, they were shooting deer, shooting deer, right, when they got guns, but doing it with bow and arrow. So they were more, country boy can't survive, but you also got the Native Americans. They could survive too off the land. They just can't survive diseases and people putting a gun, down the throat. So anyways, the Henry Clay fucked Kentucky up. You could have kept on going with the Native Americans, kept on going with the Daniel Boones, but Henry Clay says, hey, this fucking backwards fucking town, I'm going to make it look all piss posh, polished, all fucking stuck up like the English ways and shit, and just transformed it. Now, some people like Frederick Jackson Taylor, who was talking about how that's the Great West, that's where we're showing our survivor spirit and our strength, and by, building things up. What for Frederick Jackson Turner, what he had thought of with the transition from Daniel Boone to Henry Clay was that Henry Clay had consolidated the successes of Daniel Boone. Daniel Boone only set a foothold into the new wilderness, but it was Henry Clay that civilized it. Now, civilized Henry fucking Clay? Give me a fucking break. This asshole here. Now, Henry Clay, I guess I'm just going to kind of run down who Henry Clay was. So he's a statesman, like a big popular statesman. Nobody knows who he is across the United States. They read about his things, the Missouri Compromise. There's a compromise of 1850. He lived in Lexington. If you're a Kentuckian, you've heard of Henry Clay. There's a lot of crap named after Henry. I think Clay County. I don't know if it was named after. There was also a Cassius Clay, not the fighter, but there was an abolitionist, which was a cousin of Henry Clay. And you're going to see a lot of Clays actually pop up because of Henry Clay being such a huge statesman. He inspired Abraham Lincoln. Some good things that I'll mention the good things first. Because fuck Henry Clay, he's a piece of shit, and I'm gonna judge him by 2014 fucking standards. He owned fucking slaves. Fuck him. Yeah, some of these founders started with slaves and created a nation to where we could get rid of it, but they didn't get rid of it themselves. This is the next generation. This ain't Tommy Jefferson or Washington and shit. This is the next generation. He's consolidating slavery. So by him holding on to it, and he's talking out of both ends of his mouth, sitting there saying slavery is bad, but at the same time still owning slaves, he still kept on doing it. So I had a friend who said he found out George Washington owned slaves, so fuck him. My grandfather would have been whipped by fucking George Washington, and then when he died, George Washington would have took his teeth and used it as his own. So if you are, black and American, you don't respect somebody because they own fucking slaves. I get it. Especially when you know that American slavery was one of the most barbaric and brutal slaveries in the entire world. So, and that's no exception to Kentucky. The genocide was bad here, and so was the brutality with the slavery. The first Constitution, you got some of the, I want to say Presbyterians, David Rice, one of the Puritans who tried to stop slavery from getting here. Instead of actually getting slavery abolished in Kentucky's first Constitution, the so-called founders of Kentucky, they went ahead and they did something differently. They went ahead and instituted slavery, but they did ban all the Baptist preachers. They didn't like the fact that the Presbyterians almost got slavery wiped out. So to punish the Presbyterians, this is a good instance of Christianity, a good instance of Protestants actually standing up and being for someone like Jesus. Instead of being like genocidal maniacs like the Pilgrims, they actually were standing up and saying slavery is wrong. It's bullshit. I think the Quakers have a long historic tradition of doing the exact same thing. These are Christians acting Christ-like, right? No. Do not have slaves. You're not a good person if you own slaves. And so thus is true of Henry Clay. So it's not just he's a slave owner. There's so much worse shit to Henry Clay. He's an aristocrat stuck up. He wears this fucking sash. I should pull up a picture of his fucking ass. So Henry Clay, he's got like this little sash on his neck. He has like this distinguished way that he wears stuff. Henry Clay, he's just not. I just don't feel anything when I see Henry Clay. I don't think there's my man. For a while, it took me a while to even like really think of sort of Daniel Boone, because my ancestors, at least on my mother's side, are German. We got here in 1869. So we got here, and after all this shit went down, after Columbus, after Boone, after the Civil War, then the Gripshovers get here. But before then, but I do have a paternal side too, which goes into the deep Appalachian Mountains. So for many generations, so they're feudist, right? So I got English blood as well as German, which actually breaks down to Bavarian, Bohemian, Austrian, Prussian, and 11% African. So I'm a mutt. I got a whole mixture of different bloodlines. But I like the fact that I know my roots and I know where I come from. I would say a lot of people, especially with, you don't, who are you? What are your ancestry? You don't mark down German. You don't mark down Irish or English. You write down American. That's not your fucking ancestry. Ancestry is where did you come from? Okay, so I think most Kentuckians, there's like 30% of Kentuckians voted for American. They don't know who the hell they are. They're just white. I'm just white and Poe and Kentucky. That's all I know. And, they're the salt of the earth. But for them to identify with the Henry Clay, you got the rich, you got the poor. There's a lot of poor in Kentucky. Henry Clay was not the fucking poor. He was a plantation owner. He was part of the aristocratic class. He's a fucking liar, right? He's talking out of both ends of it. Slavery is bad. Slavery is bad. Well, why do you own slaves? Touche. So he's got this weird, frills around his neck, this high-ass collar, looks like just a head poking out of his, there's like his neck is just that esteemed. He's got these frilly little sort of collars, these powder puffy collars. He gets all into his hair looks all disheveled. It almost seems like he don't even know how to comb himself. It almost looks like a wild man like John Brown a little bit in this picture here. Let's take a look at his neckwear. I'm not impressed. Sorry, Henry Clay. I'm just not fucking impressed with you. He's got those weird steely eyes. Look like he's, thinking of death right now. And the high collar's coming all the way out to his fucking cheekbones. Right? It's like, what are you doing? This guy ain't going to be going out to the field. He's not going to get his hands dirty. What has he ever done? People, I had someone criticize from Breckenridge County. Obama said that he was the N-word, right? But Obama, like, there's good and bad in every group, but to say that he is like, just garbage is fucking bullshit. And then he was, oh, he wouldn't get out here and do the dirty work. Who the fuck would? Henry Clay wouldn't get out here and do the dirty work. Mitch McConnell wouldn't get out there and do the dirty work. I don't know any congressman who does. They play games, right? They call the rich benefactors. They pass a bunch of legislation which the layman doesn't even fucking know about. They're not even part of the process. And then we're just supposed to submit to whatever fucking bullshit they come up with. And then people wonder why we're in the situation we're in now. Does that sound like a good system to you? Where's the freedom? Where's the democracy? Where's the political discussions? Henry Clay, we got these firebrands, right? You got Jefferson Davis. You got Abraham Lincoln, Muhammad Ali, Hunter S. Thompson, Ashley Judd. You got George Clooney, Johnny Depp, right? You got all the Thomas Bramlett. You got just a whole slew of fucking just really great progressive freedom fighters, right? Or firebrands, loudmouths, people who made a fucking big contribution, good or bad, into American history, coming out of this state. So politics is the damnedest around here, but what kind of nation doesn't speak about politics? This is not me. I do not look at Henry Clay and think, oh, look, that's the type of weird ass fucking collar that I fucking wear with the weird ass fucking neck thing. No, dude, you're doing a new style. You're trying to be fucking cool. You're not fucking cool. You're not fucking distinguished. I'm not impressed with you. You don't even know how to comb your damn hair. He's got a receding hairline, just like Tecumseh. Maybe they shaved their damn hair, right? Just Puck Shinwa and the rest of them. This motherfucker just losing his hair, right? So I don't know. I don't hate him for losing his hair, but I hate the guy himself. He's a piece of shit. He owned fucking slaves. And you say, well, what kind of slave owner, right? Some people say my old Kentucky home was benevolent and the slaves loved being there. This old fucker, this old psychopath, right? Him and Jackson were fighting against each other. He fought in different duels. So the motherfucker's tough as nails and good, right? I mean, that's not a bad thing. But the things that he's tough as nails on is just totally all wrong. He's compromising all the goddamn time, but when it came to his slaves, he never compromised. It's his slaves. He owns them like property. You keep your damn hands off. There's two big stories I want to talk about that. I'm going to mention a couple other things. Henry Clay defends Aaron Burr. I think that's a wonderful thing. Fuck Alexander Hamilton. But Henry Clay makes his beginning by defending a fucking, assassin. Aaron Burr was going to sell Kentucky down the river to the Spanish Empire. We all might have been speaking Spanish. Aaron Burr supposedly committed treason because, he killed Hamilton. Alexander Hamilton was a fucking asshole. Don't get me wrong. My point is, it's the same thing when John Adams was defending the Redcoats at the Boston Massacre. So you have these people that's, everybody deserves a right to be defended. But if you're defending Charles Manson, don't expect me to give you props for fucking defending a wrong fucking guy, a piece of shit asshole who didn't, they deserve a defense. But if they're guilty, fuck them. So let's see. He cheated at cards. That's why he got into a duel over somebody who claims he cheated at cards. You're a card cheater. Oh yeah, we're gonna fight to the death over that, Pilgrim. Oh yeah, you a cowboy, baby. Let me tell you, you a cowboy when you're fucking. And he owns 40 to 60 slaves. You don't think he was raping some of them slaves, getting them some black ass? How many fucking rapes do you think that Henry Clay put on his fucking slaves? He owned 60 human beings. Were any of them women? Did he have a woman who was there to satisfy him day in and day out? What about when she was pregnant? Did he ever have any babies? That's when Margaret Gardner was getting raped, when that hit her massa. His wife was getting pregnant, and he just had to, stick his dick into something else. What's he gonna do for 9 months? Go celibate? No way, not a slave master. Slave master ain't gonna go celibate. He's gonna get, he's gonna find one to rape or find somebody to do something with, right? And I guess his imagination is that whatever he wants to do with his slaves. It doesn't even have to be women. Could have been the men. Could have been the old people. Could have been the children. Who knows? Fucking Henry Clay thinks that he can own motherfucking people. So you can hit a person, you can beat a person, you own their body, you own their mind. So to think that somebody who abuses or beats or controls and manipulates another human being 100% in their entirety would possibly, do some weird, sexual shit, that's not a big fucking leap of logic whatsoever. So that's Henry Clay owns these slaves. The two stories, there's one guy, he runs away from Henry Clay. This guy's name is Richardson, something Richardson, Lewis Richardson. So Lewis Richardson was able to run away from Henry Clay from the plantation in Ashland. And he goes all the way up to Union Chapel, Amherstburg, Canada West. 1846, March 13th, and he makes a speech. And Henry Clay hated it. He was for abolition, right? But he wanted it to be gradual. Well, gradualism's a fucking disease. MLK is right about that. So Henry Clay wanted gradual emancipation because black people were inferior to white. That's his perspective. And since they're inferior to white, if you just give black people freedom, they would take it, go to a whole nother fucking route with it. They wouldn't act right, wouldn't know how to do, any goddamn thing. You have to have gradual freedom. Well, that might sound some reasonable for some racists, some white supremacists. Yeah, slavery, it's bad, but maybe gradually we'll get rid of it. Sure. Yeah, like God is just going to take care of the shit himself, right? Nah, well, unless you call Abraham Lincoln God, which I'm liking Lincoln more and more, as I get older. But anyways, this is Lewis Richardson ran away from Henry Clay, and he was able to say a speech in Canada because Canada protected it. Henry Clay didn't like that shit. He was for colonization, decolonization, where they would send the Africans back to Africa, to Liberia, where they can eat each other's hearts out and run around with buck naked, killing and raping and doing whatever it is they want to do to anybody there. So we fucked up Liberia. We fucked up a lot of fucking countries, okay? And also, if you're born in the United States, it would make no sense. It'd be like sending German Americans back to Germany. You don't even know how to speak their language. How are you going to survive? But it's even kind of worse sending black folks back to Africa because there's, rampant hunger and disease and starvation and AIDS and warfare. And, there's actually, it's absolute chaos there. So for Henry Clay to think that's a viable solution, you're not going to just say, you're free. Now let's, teach you English and get you involved with the society. Let's be integrationists. No. Henry Clay wants to say, you're free. Now get on that boat, just like you did before, and get the fuck out of here. Ha ha ha, okay? And that's it. Fuck Henry Clay. Fuck that piece of shit. Fuck him and his fucking mother. So Henry Clay, here's a speech about Lewis Richardson on Henry Clay. Dear brethren, I'm truly happy to meet with you on British soil, where I am not known by the color of my skin, but where the government knows me as a man. I am free from American slavery after wearing the galling chains on my limbs for 53 fucking years. 53 fucking years. My entire life, my entire adulthood, gone. Owned by fucking Clay. 9 years of which have been my unhappy lot to be the slave of Henry Clay. So just for a fucking decade, I had to get out. I've been a slave my whole fucking life, but for 9 years under Henry Clay, absolutely not. It's been said by some that Henry Clay slaves live with him. They'd rather live with him than to be free, but I had rather this day have a millstone tied to my neck and be sunk to the bottom of the Detroit River than to go back to Ashland and be Henry Clay's slave for life. No, sir, no fucking way. As late as December 1845, Henry Clay had me stripped and tied up and 150 lashes given to me on my naked back, a crime for which I was so abused because I failed to return home on a visit to see my wife on a Monday morning before 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock. So I had to walk 3 miles and come 3 miles back in the morning and in the day, and I didn't get back before 5 o'clock. And so Mr. fucking Henry Clay, Mister, that bitch ass white supremacist Henry Clay fucking lashed me. During the 9 years living with Mr. Clay, he's not giving me a hat nor a cap to wear, getting sunburnt, not a stitch of bedclothes, except for one small coarse blanket, wearing the work clothes, going there. He was a field Negro. Lewis Richardson understood what the fuck was up. So nothing to sleep with, no bed clothes, just stinky ass fucking work clothes all the time, sleeping out in the fucking pig pen. Yet he had said publicly his slaves were fat and slick. Oh yeah, fat and slick. Yeah, you just treating them all so good. But I say if they are, it is not because they're so well used by him. They have nothing but coarse bread and meat to eat. Not enough of that. Their allowance every week for each field hand is allowed one peck of coarse cornmeal and meat in proportion, no vegetables of any kind, such as the treatment of Henry Clay's slaves received from him. No fucking vegetables. What the fuck is that shit? You're supposed to always eat your 4 food groups, right? So Henry Clay was not good to Lewis Richardson. No vegetables, only one peck of coarse cornmeal and meat in proportion, right? Just tiny little fucking droplets of. Yet think that I'm not. Let's see. I can truly say that I have one thing to lament over, and that is my bereft wife who is yet in bondage. So he's got a Django situation. Lewis Richardson needs to go get his woman. If I only had her with me, I should be happy. Yet think not that I am unhappy. Think not that I regret the choice that I have made. I counted the cost before I started. Before I took leave of my wife, she wept over me and dressed the wounds on my back caused by that motherfucker's lashes. I gave her the parting hand, started for Canada. I expected to be pursued as a felon, as I had before, to be hunted as a fox from mountain to cave. I well knew if I continued much longer with Clay, that I should be killed by such floggings and abuse by his cruel overseer in my old age. I even heard Clay wasn't, sometimes he would be benevolent, but his sons were fucking beating the shit out of him. His overseers, right? His fucking Edward Coveys, like Frederick Douglass's massa, Edward fucking Covey. I gave her the parting hand and started for Canada. I expected to be pursued as a felon, hunted as a fox from mountain to cave. I well knew if I continued much longer with Clay, I'd be killed. I wanted to be free before I died, and if I should be caught on the way to Canada, take it back. It could but be death, and I might as well die with the colic as the fever. With these considerations, I started with Canada, right? Give me freedom or give me death. Supposedly Patrick Henry. Such usage as this calls me to flee from under the American eagle and take shelter under the British crown. Thanks be to heaven that I have got here at last on yonder side of Detroit River. I was recognized as property, but on this side I am on free soil. Hail, Britannia, shame America. Republican despotism is holding the 3 millions of our fellow men in slavery. Oh, what a contrast between slavery and liberty. Here I stand erect without a chain upon my limbs, redeemed, emancipated by the generosity of Great Britain. I now feel as independent as ever Henry Clay felt when he was running for the White House. In fact, I feel better. He's been defeated 4 or 5 times, and I but once. But he was running for slavery and I for liberty. And I think I have beat him out of sight. Thanks be to God that I'm elected to Canada. And if I don't live but one night, I'm determined to die on free soil. Let my days be few or many. Let me die sooner or later. My grave shall be made in free soil. So, hail Britannia, right? Run into the British side, right? Run into Canada. A lot of people in Vietnam, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, Karl Rove, Dick Cheney, right? All them fuckers avoided the draft. Rush Limbaugh, fuck the draft. They ain't gonna fucking fight no Vietnam. And then they say Clinton's a draft dodger. That draft dodger son of a bitch. But I thought you dodged the draft. Well, yeah, but I just wanted to say he's one. Make you think that it's a bad thing. So, such uses just caused me to flee from under the American eagle. I don't want the American eagle. I'm going to Canada. I'm going to the British. 3 million. He knew that 3 million people were in slavery. Redeemed, emancipated by the generosity of Great Britain. Feels independent as ever, Henry Clay felt when he was running for the White House. That's such good. Damn, it's so good. Henry Clay was fighting for fucking emancipation and slavery. He talked out both ends of his fucking mouth. He didn't know what to make of it. He inspired Lincoln to finally make the right decision, but he didn't make the right decision. He owned 40 to 60 fucking slaves, including beating the shit out of fucking Lewis Richardson just to go see his wife. How dare you go see your wife, boy? Boy, don't you go seeing your wife for too damn long. I told you Sunday you got to get back here by 5, and right here it's 5:05. You done got 5 minutes past. Nah, sorry, boy. Sorry, boy, we're going to have to fucking lash you 150 times. And then later on, like, one of his fucking people was like, no, it wasn't 150, it was just 18 and it was right what he was fucking getting hit for. So he admitted to some. I would grant that Lewis Richardson's right, 150 fucking floggings. Old Henry Clay didn't give a fuck about his own slaves, just about his power base. When Henry Clay inherited slaves. So he's always thought slavery was acceptable. He got slaves when he got married. And he could have got rid of them, but why would he do that? That in order to be a profitable, respectable landowner in Kentucky, you brag about your slaves. How many slaves you got? 20? I got me 20 slaves on my farm. Well, I only got 19. Ha, pussy. Nah, I got more slaves than you, pussy. Yeah, I got more people to do my work for me, pussy. I ain't gotta do shit, drink lemonade. Be a dick, be a racist fucking prick, right? Nobody's watching, do whatever the fuck I want to. You think that's good? You think that's right? You got fucking slaves, how you gonna sit there and fucking get on me if I say about right and if it ain't no right or not? Shit, man. So, Richard Lewis, an escaped slave, 1846, talked about the bad treatment that he got. There was one part, he says he got flogged with 100 lashes, but really Clay said 16 lashes is all he had. And then afterwards, after the speech, nobody knows what happened to Lewis Richardson. So who knows what happened to him? I hope he lived. I hope he kept on going. Something tells me that it had a bad ending. I hope not, though. He was able to make a speech. He got the freedom and then was able to make a speech. There's shit I'd like to fucking tell a group of fucking people. I bet that was liberating in of itself. I made it to free land. I'm talking about an old fucking politician. And now I'm going to tell the fucking world. So Henry Clay, he owned 40 to 60 slaves. One time he complained that one of his slave runaways fled for no other reason than because we spoiled him by good treatment. Oh, so you was nice to this slave, right? You was trying to make him like a house Negro who liked all this shit, who liked his bondage. Yes, massa. I know I have no freedom or no soul or humanity under your massa, but you do let me eat those biscuits. Those biscuits and gravy, those sweet old biscuits and gravy gonna keep me right here on this plantation, massa. I'll be happy. You want me to do a little shucking and jiving? Let me do a little dance. That's what Henry Clay, that was the fucking culture in society. And then how can a free white compete with fucking free slavery? You can't compete with it. So he was killing capitalism. He was, basically it was an aristocratic fucking society. It's goddamn fucking British. It was a British invasion. No wonder they called the Civil War the Second Revolution. You had all these goddamn Confederate fucking aristocratic slave-owning fucking piece of shit bastards like Henry Clay fucking over the entire state of Kentucky, just giving the entire state of Kentucky to a bunch of wealthy fucking landowning corporations, sons of bitches, taking it out of hands. It used to be perfect poor man's country. There was a forest. We all hunted in the forest because we all lived on this land together. Now it's like, this is my land, that's your land, fuck you. Well, you own 100 million fucking acres. It don't fucking matter. It's all mine. I got this piece of paper that said, well, we lived here for 5 years. Don't fucking matter. We don't care if you lived here for 14,000 years. Why would you think we care if you lived here for 5? That's how we roll around here. We get ours ways around here. And we get ours ways around here because we's willing to wipe you the fuck out. Bury you in the holler. Go on to Clay County. Clay County is some of the worst fucking murderous sons of bitches in the fucking whole state. When motherfucker die up every fucking month in Clay County. Nobody knows where that motherfucker died. Or know where he buried. Or who done it. They know. But they ain't gonna say. They ain't gonna say. Not around here, boy. Henry Clay supported gradual emancipation, right? It's just so fucked up. Well, why did your slave run away? Was it because you lashed him in the back 100 times for seeing his fucking wife one goddamn day a year? on Christmas Day? You couldn't let him see it one day? Why the fuck would he leave? Because you lashed him? Or because you give him a little bit of extra gravy on his biscuits? Fuck you. Henry Clay made sure the West was lost. Kentucky was lost, gone out of the poor man's country and into the rich fucking corrupt lawyer fucking bastards. So corrupt lawyers, fucking land speculators, corporations, it was just a free-for-all. This was a fucking Wild West around here. Politics was the damnedest. Before he was far from calling for equality, he thought that free blacks were corrupt, depraved, and abandoned. Well, what about Muhammad Ali? He's corrupt and depraved and abandoned. He's a free black. What a crappy, corrupt, depraved, abandoned bastard. Corrupt. You want to know the definition of corruption? Sitting there talking out against slavery while owning fucking slaves yourself. You know? That you can't be a bigger fucking hypocrite. You can say, hey, I'm for peace and just go around smacking everybody. How are you for peace if you're doing the exact opposite? Depraved, abandoned. What a fucking racist. He wanted manumitted slaves, freed slaves, to leave the continent. Go back to Liberia or fucking Haiti. Lincoln tried that shit, but fucking failed. It ended in disaster. The guy who said he owned a colony, didn't own the colony, took slaves, tried to make the slaves work. He was found out, tried to take some land. They all fucking went after him. So instead of giving black people their freedom, Abraham Lincoln was willing to send them on a fucking boat to a goddamn corrupt piece of shit. One corrupt bastard can't tell another corrupt bastard. Henry Clay wants to sit there and say corrupt. Look at yourself, Henry Clay. And look at the reasons why he fucking dueled, right? He got into two duels and almost a third one, right? This motherfucker's just a savage. He's no fucking Andrew Jackson. He fought against Andrew Jackson, which I liked. He also opposed the Mexican War, which I opposed, I'm against the Mexican War. It was based upon false pretenses. Polk won the fucking war, said that the Mexicans were shooting at us. They were not. The Americans were in Mexican land. They were shooting at the Americans that was in their fucking land, which they have every fucking right to do. But Polk lied to the American people, got them into this fucking Mexican war, stole a whole fucking swath of land from people by military conquest. So I'd rather be right than to be president. That's what Henry Clay likes to say. I'd rather be right than president, but he wasn't even fucking right, right? He compromised with everything else except for when it came to fucking slaves. He compromised his words, but his actions was very much just like any of the worst Goodbye Uncle Tom movies you've ever seen, or just like Amistad, or just like 12 Years a Slave. Henry Clay's lashing the fucking girl in the back, right? He can't do it himself because he's a fucking pussy, so he's giving it to another slave and putting a gun to that slave's head and saying, do it! Do it now. Whenever the slaves would rebel, the first person they would kill would be Massa's wife, right? She was the biggest Uncle Tom in the room, and she also she was jealously guard, right? Her man's affection. And so she was insecure, being the number one Uncle Tom. Well, damn, you got a whole field of Uncle Toms. And amazing how one person, like a dictator in a classroom or a family of 5 whites, can keep 30 motherfuckers at bay, right? Whether it's your children today in the classroom or whether it's out in the field. It's all the same shit. It's all oppression. It's the same shit. And how do they do it? Divide and conquer. Don't tell the fucking slaves any information that they actually need in order to get bigger and better. Don't tell them to get powerful. Don't tell them to stand up and speak up. Tell them to shut up and listen, and you just feed them a bunch of information because you want all the fucking power. So that's motherfucking Henry ass fucking Clay. Lewis Richardson, right, had no hat nor cap to wear, not a stitch of bread of clothes, or not a stitch of bed clothes, a coarse blanket. So Henry Clay ordered him stripped and tied up, 150 fucking lashes on his naked back. Boy, you come out, you went to see your wife and you came here 5 minutes late, well, take off your clothes. Boy, don't make me, boy, I'm going to pull off my bum. Now I'm done pissed off. I'm not just getting my belt, boy. I'm going to get me a whip. I'm going to get me a horse whip, and I'm going to lash your back 150 fucking times. Nah, boy, you going to learn your name's Toby, boy. So that's the shit we're fucking dealing with. This motherfucker's a hero who lashes a motherfucking black man who loves his wife. Where's the crime in that? He loves his wife. No wonder, black women are so, hateful towards black men. Massa fucking severed those ties. He did it intentionally. And what the fuck? She cries out for help and he's nowhere around. What the fuck is she supposed to think? Maybe kiss this motherfucker's ass. Maybe she'll survive. Maybe she'll live another day. So, at Ashland, Lewis Richardson got lashed 150 times because he saw his wife for too long, 3 fucking miles down the road. Well, what was he on a fucking motorcycle? Could just drive right back real fucking fast? Said stripped naked. Or what? Just down to his little skimpies? Did he show his dick? Did Henry Clay got to see his dick as he fucking lashed a man, a human being, 150 fucking times over shit that was clearly he was in the right to do? Lewis Richardson was in the right to go see his wife. Fuck Henry Clay for wanting to whip him for no fucking reasons. Even in 12 Years a Slave, we see way less lashes by Solomon on Patsy, and Patsy's back was torn to pieces. It was a climax. Sorry for ruining that fucking movie for you, but seriously, 150 lashes. She got a shit ton of lashes, not 150. And her only crime was to go to the neighbor's house to get a bar of soap. His crime is just going down the road to see his wife. How is this crime to stay sanitary? To be with someone you love? When Henry Clay went around, the sons terrorized the slaves. Yeah. Old daddy ain't around. We get to do as the fuck as we want to these boys. These boys are property. Heave away. I'd rather cut a yeller gal than work for Henry Clay. Up to 60 slaves. And he didn't think that the white man and black man could ever live in harmony together. So if there was freedom, get the fuck out. Nah, you can't stay. Now, you get freedom, I don't want you to have freedom now because I want to own you. But eventually, I think something is up with this slavery institution. Something. He was the president of the American Colonization Society, which was all about shipping them to Africa. In 1829, Charlotte Dupuy. Charlotte Dupuy, another fucking slave of his, right? He owned 60 slaves. We only get to hear from 2 of them. We only get to hear about Lewis Richardson, and we only get to hear about Charlotte Dupuy. Charlotte Dupuy's husband was his number 1 Uncle Tom house Negro. He talked bad about blacks in front of him, and he just didn't give a shit, right? That was his loyal servant. And Charlotte Dupuy would have been his number 1 man's wife. Okay? So, Dupuy, she eventually sues him. She's up in Washington, D.C. for a while. And says, hey, I was free because of this old fucking contract that I had with my original master, and you have no fucking say-so, so I'm free. Fuck you. Clay thought maybe his opponent set her up to do it or some shit, but he didn't compromise in. He said, fuck you, you're my fucking slave. I want you, I want your kids, I want your husband. Fuck you, you ain't gonna be free. And even though he won the case, Henry Clay enforced the law, right? The law was in favor of the fucking slave-owning piece of shit. And I'm sure the slave-owning fucking aristocratic bastards love that Henry Clay had to fucking defend slavery to that fucking point. Are you for it or against it, motherfucker? Oh, you're definitely in favor of it. Gotcha. You're just talking out of both ends of your mouth. Maybe if you were fucking honest, Henry Clay, and actually stood for something on principle, maybe you would have been president. You'd rather be right, though, than to be president. And you think that Charlotte Dupuy was your fucking property. So Dupuy didn't come back. He had to get his agent to arrest her. They imprisoned her, and then they arranged for her transport. He placed her with his daughter and son-in-law, Martin Duralde. Mary Ann Dupuy was sent to join her mother, and they worked as domestic slaves for the Duraldes for another decade. So what the fuck? Henry Clay's lashing the fuck out. And this is just the people that we know. He owned 60 slaves. These are the ones that he was closest to. He sits there and says, oh, the ones who are bad, I spoiled them too damn much. Or maybe you were just shitty to all of them, and even the ones that you were spoiling was still in shitty fucking circumstances. It's still fucking slavery. That's why people don't even realize they're wage slaves today. You're renting your body out. And that was the justification for slavery, is that you take care of something you own better than something that you rented. You're a wage slave. And maybe if people understood their picture, their idea of where they fucking fit in this world, you're a fucking wage slave. You're a god, Harriet Tubman said she could have rescued so many more African Americans who were slaves had they known they were slaves. Harriet Tubman couldn't rescue all the ones that she tried to rescue because most of the fucking slaves didn't even realize it. You says I'm a slave, but I'm right here. And I'm so happy. Master's so kind to me. Gets me some gravies and biscuits. I ain't leaving. And yeah, people go, oh, it's racialist. But frankly, it's hierarchy I can't fucking stand. So I don't give a fuck. I'll make fun of white people or fucking, you know, it doesn't matter what color. You want to sit there and be a fucking bitch ass fucking Uncle Tom to somebody? You're the one that's, I think, both the relationship of the oppressor and the oppressed needs a contract between them. The oppressor says, bitch, you're my fucking bitch. Now you shut the fuck up and you get underneath me. And then the bitch says, okay, daddy, I'll do what the fuck you want. And because of that contract, because of the fucking motherfucker who's sitting there dehumanizing others, and then the other piece of shit that either A, don't know better, or B, has no other place to go, so the best conditions they got is fucking slavery, goes ahead and submits. And once you submit, that's the level that an oppressor will get to you. If they know that you'll submit, then they'll know that you'll submit again, and you'll submit again, and then they'll fucking own you. So weird how one little order can be taken to take your whole fucking life away. Look at that homeless guy in California. Hey, come here, what's your name? Do I gotta fucking fuck with you, you cop piece of shit? I know you're a fucking bully, you short ass fucking mustachio motherfucker. All they doing was asking his name, right? Within 5 minutes, motherfucker's bleeding on the ground, face down. Then he's in the hospital, beat to shit, fucking dead. How long did it take for any of the black shootings? Took what? To 12 minutes to choke that one guy? Took what? 1 fucking second to shoot the guy in Ferguson? Trayvon took less than a fucking minute to follow a motherfucker. And then when the guy's like, what do you follow me for? Pow pow, dead. You know, once it takes just a fucking moment when you decide to become the oppressor to the oppressed and you don't understand what the fuck y'all doing. The will to power. All you fucking Nazis. It's like Nazism is fucking right and real and fine and okay. Just fine and dandy to go around bossing and bullying motherfuckers. That's how you get your way. But to build culture, to have cooperative projects, to share power, to have debates and arguments, to actually fucking getting along with people, you can't fucking do that shit. You don't know what you're doing. And that is so sad in America. So fuck Henry Clay. I'm still on the fuck Henry Clay. He's a fucking slave owner, 40 to 60 slaves. Some people are undaunted by that. That's a big deal. When I found out that George Washington is putting the teeth of his dead slaves in his mouth, right? Supposedly he had wooden teeth. So maybe the myth of the wooden teeth was only to cover the fact that he used fucking his slaves' teeth for his own teeth. Hey, sorry about that, Mr. Kutakinte, for working for me my entire motherfucking life and earning you nothing. I have stripped you from your family and shit, and now you're dead in the dirt. I'm going to go ahead and take this tooth out of your mouth here and go ahead and put it in my face. And I know, but, you know, I'm somebody you're not. Even Cabell's Dell, right? You got the Breckenridges, who's mostly racist. They have Cabell's Dell. So the plantation gets a name, but none of the slaves gets a name. The only slaves that we find out under Henry motherfucking Clay is Charlotte Dupuis and Lewis Richardson. Those are the only 2 slaves who get some names. That's it. Those are the only 2. The ones who fought back. The ones who stood up. The ones who made some type of distinguishing mark against their fucking massa. Their piece of shit massa. Now I want to finish off. This off not quickly, but I want to get to the War of 1812 because it kind of shows you that he's just an opportunist. He has no moral. He's a moral relativist. Whatever he thinks is moral one day, he thinks is not moral another day. He's going to oppose the Mexican War, be supposedly for independence of the Latin American countries. They said he was like Simon Bolivar. Are you fucking kidding me? And he wants to kill this one guy just because he said he cheated at cards. You know, he defended fucking the Spanish Aaron Burr fucking spy. He's just a guy mixed legacy. He's going to oppose the Mexican War, but he's going to be a war hawk when it comes to the War of 1812. What the fuck did we get with the War of 1812? He opposed the Mexican War, which wins and gets all that, you know, Mexican land. He was in favor of the War of 1812, which fails, and they get none of the Canadian land. So Henry Clay's war was actually a war that got us nothing. It got Tecumseh killed, and it got the White House burnt down to the ground. What did it do for America? It did nothing. You know what it did for Kentucky? 64% of those who died in the War of 1812 were Kentuckians. So for the state of Kentucky, he just got us fucking assassinated. All the fucking Ohio people and the people up north got to stay in the forts, and since we had no forts, they sent us to the fucking front lines. They didn't give a shit about us. It did get Andrew Jackson to issue his most famous quote about Kentuckians. They go to New Orleans, they had no supplies. Just go on down there. No supplies? No supplies. Get the fuck down there, right? This is Henry Clay wants to do this shit. Why you want to fight the British? To show that we're powerful. We're not going to be bullied, them sons of bitches. They wanted Canada. They wanted to take Canada. So the War of 1812 is actually a success for the Canadians. Success for the British if they just want to stop their incursion into Canada. So they protected Canada, right? Which is owned by the Queen. The Queen still fucking dominates over Canada, right? Whoa, the Queen, blah, 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 fucking Canada, right? But they also got French-speaking provinces up there, too. So, I don't know. I think Canada's got a universal healthcare system. They're known to be polite. You don't see the fucking craziness that you see down here. It's cold as shit, but, you know, maybe you could learn to get used to the cold, right? So, went off track there a little bit. But it was about the War of 1812. Most Kentuckians died for the War of 1812. It was a fucking war hawks like fucking Henry Clay that forced us to go into it. We got nothing out of it. All these poor Kentuckians go down to New Orleans. And you had Andrew Jackson who says he never met a Kentuckian. He was actually bitching about the Kentuckians because like, what the fuck? They don't have any fucking, you know, where's their shit at? They don't have a mess kit. They ain't got no fork. They ain't got no fucking clothes. They're basically butt naked, right? And he says, I never met a Kentuckian that didn't have a deck of cards, a flask of whiskey, and a gun before. So he was wondering why they didn't even have that. What, you know, his Kentuckians that he understands, they got whiskey, they got guns, and they got a deck of cards. But these Kentuckians didn't have shit. So the majority of the Kentuckians, majority of the people who died, majority of the Americans who died in the War of 1812 were fucking Kentuckians. We got into the war because of Henry Clay, a Kentucky, you know, renowned fucking aristocrat who owned fucking slaves. And we got nothing out of the War of 1812. You don't believe me? Check it out. Tell me what you think we got out of the War of 1812. We didn't get shit. Charlotte Dupuy already talked a little bit about it. They eventually ruled home. Early life, petition for freedom. Here's the case, the legacy. So yeah, I'm sure it was a big call celebrate. Here's the bill of sale for Charlotte Dupuy from James Condon. And it's Dupuy. It's D-U-P-U-Y. That's Dupuy. Charlotte Dupuy. It's a French name, right? James Condon to Henry Clay. Here's the bill of sale. I see Henry Clay's right there for $450. How much? It's a Negro female slave named Charlotte. Oh, isn't that nice? Henry Clay just got himself a fucking prostitute, right? Someone he could fucking rape and nobody could say a fucking word, or he could breed and do whatever the fuck he wanted with her. His for only $450 fucking dollars. Good fucking man, that Henry Clay, let me tell you. Good fucking man, that Ben Franklin, fucking George Washington. I'm sure they wouldn't fucking beat up the, you know, the fucking slaves. Tommy Jefferson, none of these so-called fucking founders. No, they were built on Christian Judeo values. Christian Judeo values. They believed in the things Jesus says, right? The slaves have to turn their other cheek and be passive and poor, and they'll make it to heaven. And supposedly we'll go to hell, but we have all the money and all the power, so fuck it. Who cares? We'll be fake Christians and just take all the power and the money. The duels that Henry Clay was in really fucking weird ass ways. So this guy, John Randolph, he gets into a duel with John Randolph. John Randolph just said that all he did was, he said something about, he called him a black leg. Right, he said that he was a Puritan that was suffering from black leg. And something that was supposed to be slang for a card cheat. Henry Clay wasn't there to hear the insult. They were good buddies, but he heard he'd been insulted, and he knew of no other way. But besides, he wanted to fucking back him down by scaring him. He'd already been in one duel, and the duel was something really stupid. They got into fist fights. It was only about the homespun resolution because he wanted the legislators to wear only American-produced cloth. And then Marshall, a man named Humphrey Marshall, just started walking around in his nicest English fucking attire. And so they got into a duel over that, shot 3 times. Henry Clay missed, so he's a fucking shitty duelist. Had 3 shots, and he missed Humphrey Marshall. So what would have happened? The fucking great compromiser, the fucking man who would rather be right than to be president, even though he never was fucking right. He tried to get the American system, couldn't get the fucking road system and shit, couldn't get along with Andrew Jackson. When him and Andrew Jackson have like plenty of fucking similarities. Andrew Jackson's made his name at the Battle of New Orleans. So basically, Andrew Jackson lit fire up under fucking Henry Clay's ass. Henry Clay ran for president 3 times, lost every fucking time, just like William James Bryan and Eugene Debs, Ralph Nader, right? These are people who have lost multiple presidential elections. So Henry Clay is nothing more than a fucking Ralph Nader, right? And, oh, Nader, get out of here. Oh, Henry Clay, there he goes with one of his speeches. He's sitting there talking about it being against slavery. Hopefully he can get them damn Yankees to vote with them and we'll get our ways. So John Randolph says a fucking thing, hey, but they loved each other. They were best friends and shit. They called him a black leg. Black leg, I've never even heard that. You have a black leg. That just means you got the plague, you got a fucking disease, or it could be something about his racism or some shit. I don't know. Clearly a hothead said, fuck it, I want to fucking kill you. And then when he did that, John Randolph, this man that you see right here, he was like, fuck it. You can go ahead and sit there and say that you want to kill me, but I'm not going to die. I'm not going to fight you. I'm going to shoot up in the air. And that's what he did. He shot up in the air and was like, fuck it, I don't want to shoot you. And this is after they already shot once or twice or some shit. And then Henry Clay was like, oh, buddy, never mind. I forgive you. And then they became best friends. And then another duel almost happened. The senator from Alabama, William King, challenged Clay to a duel. The Senate Sergeant at Arms promptly arrested him after making formal apologies to each other. Clay and King shared a pinch of snuff to the applause of all those present. So he had 2 fucking duels. One where he actually shot to kill Randolph. He tried to kill this man, John Randolph, who was his fucking friend, who just said something bad about him doing something, right? Oh, how dare him say something bad about me? You can't say nothing. I'm Henry motherfucking Clay. Yeah, you own fucking slaves. You treated Lewis fucking Richardson like shit. You're fucking hot-headed. You're just, shooting at anybody and everybody. You own about 60 fucking slaves. Even your best kept slaves don't even want to fucking be around you. So we can only imagine how much brutality you fucking put on the other slaves just to be, you probably put more fucking abuse on them just to make sure they didn't get up and go out and go nowhere. So that's, that was Charlotte Dupuis, right? The way he treated the fucking Dupuis, the whole family, and then also Lewis Richardson. So, structures. Central structures. Slave owner, I'd rather be Pride, inherited his slaves. Great compromise, defended Aaron Burr. So that's getting to the end of Henry Clay. Henry Clay is a fucking bastard, right? We all know Henry Clay's a piece of shit. He's gonna fucking kill his best fucking friend because he said something bad about him. Fuck you. Friends talk shit all the fucking time, and for him to want to kill his fucking friend over some tiny shit that he did, before you have one of those bickering and bantering relationships, you need to have a fucking friendship, to begin with. Men don't know what the fuck they're doing. We do need to become more like gentlemen. We do need more sheriffs of Mayberry, people who fight to earn people's respect instead of just going around trying to scare people by the gun. How do you know if people really respect you, the man, or the gun? And if you're just getting respect through fear, you're a pussy and a bitch-ass coward. You're a fucking man. Live through example. Show us how we're supposed to fucking live. War of 1812. Some people say that it was actually a British victory and an American defeat. So Henry Clay helped us lead us to a fucking defeat. Whereas Polk, he stood up against the Mexican-American War, of which I agree with, right? Because it was under false pretenses. But Polk won, and he doubled the fucking size of the country. They argued that, and the Mexicans might want that land back. So, watch out, America. They argued that the British achieved their military objectives in 1812 by stopping the repeated American invasions of Canada, that Canada retained their independence of the United States. By contrast, they say the Americans suffered a defeat when their armies failed to achieve their war goal of seizing part or all of Canada. Additionally, they argued the U.S. lost as it failed to stop impressment. The British kept on impressing the fucking navies, right? They were so impressed with them, that's why they want to fight them. No, it's not impressed like that, okay? They weren't impressed. They probably were impressed once they got fucking kidnapped and shit, but the British Navy kept on doing that shit. and the Americans couldn't do anything about it, right? The British said, we own the fucking seas. The seas are ours. We saw the sea first. It's ours. It's not yours. It's ours. So the United States didn't get Canada. The White House burned down to the ground, right? The British got their revenge against the new nation. We had defeated them. We had a new constitution. We had a Bill of Rights. We was getting going. But what? Henry Clay wanted to be a fucking revolutionary. He was feeling what? Nostalgic for some fucking bloodshed. Everybody talked about the great fucking Revolutionary War. So he went ahead and sacrificed 1,000 Kentuckians for his fucking causes. He's a fucking war hawk for no purpose, for no point, no apparent reason. Tecumseh, he shot the Native American, right? He fucking killed the biggest fucking Native. He couldn't do an integrationist policy. He had to fucking steal Native Americans' land. And that was the biggest loser. So they could say it was a draw, but at the very most, everybody agrees that the Indians fucking lost. The real losers were them. The biggest losers were Indians. In proportion of their population, they suffered the heaviest casualties. Worst, they were left without any reliable European allies in North America. The crushing defeat at the Thames and the Horseshoe Bend left them at the mercy of the Americans, hastening their confinement to reservations and decline of their traditional way of life. So some people put the fucking end of the Native American battles at Wounded Knee. You could put it right at the War of 1812. Washington was killing all those Miami and Shawnee, wiped out the fucking Iroquois, and was going to take over the fucking West. Washington was going that direction anyways. Henry Clay, fucking George Rogers Clark. I mean, they started the West. They started going out this way. So why would they stop? I even heard Washington never even set foot in Kentucky, though he had a fucking 5,000 acre plot of ground here. Fucking aristocrats, you know? Get the slaves to fucking do all their damn work, get the soldiers to do all the damn killing, and then they collect all the damn fucking profits. Is it any different today? So that's some information about the War of 1812. Kentucky was pivotal in the War of 1812. They tried to remain neutral, desired ability to trade. The tensions leading the war, accompanied by the rise in questionably Kentucky's greatest and best known United States Representative and Senator Henry Clay. After serving in the Kentucky legislature, Clay served an unexpired term in the U.S. Senate before winning a term in the U.S. House of Representatives. Being elected Speaker in 1811, from this position, he became a leader of the War Hawks and declared war against Great Britain June 18th, 1812. And the War of 1812 would begin and went in for 3 years. Why is it called the 3-year war or the War of 1815? Because that's the way motherfucking historians name shit, okay? It doesn't make sense. Everybody just starts calling it one fucking thing, and that's the name everybody goes with, okay? Okay. So, yeah, here's another big thing that happened in the War of 1812. There's 9 Kentucky counties that are actually named for the losers of the War of 1812. You have, 1,600, let's see, shit ton of fucking Kentuckians. Here's another Kentuckian, Richard Minter Johnson, who led the cavalry regiment of Kentuckians, received credit for the killing of Tecumseh. So Richard Minter Johnson was from Kentucky, born in Kentucky, killed Tecumseh, who probably was another Kentuckian. One Kentucky on Kentucky crime. I'm tired of Kentucky on Kentucky crime. You know? Let's nationalize ourselves and say, fuck the world. We're Kentuckians. One Kentuckian never kills another Kentuckian. I don't care if they got red, brown, white skin. If you're from Kentucky, you're a good-ass fucking man. Doesn't matter what race you are. Doesn't matter if you're Shawnee. Doesn't matter. Well, it might matter if you're English, because you just go around like to kill the native Shawnee. What the fuck did Tecumseh ever do to you, Richard Minton Johnson? And he ran for election on that shit. Guess what? I killed Tecumseh. Well, hell, I'm going to vote for you. You clearly know what to do with policy and how to run a state. You killed Tecumseh. Well, I mean, really, even a baby could probably kill somebody. You know what I mean? Fucking Simpsons, baby Simpson, fucking killed Burns. Anybody can kill a fucking baby. Or, wait. A baby can kill anybody. What am I saying? Finish this up. Shit. So, they call it the Treaty of Ghent. There's a Ghent, Kentucky, which was actually a city in Carroll County that was named after this treaty. which is actually where I was born. I was born in Gent, born and raised, born in Covington, but you know, as a baby, 1 year old or something, I was in Gent for 17 years. The best years of my life, living on paradise. Nothing but good times. Lots of friends, lots of laughs, lots of good memories. So Kentuckians were in the thick of the battle, but not without some controversy. When many of the Kentuckians arrived in New Orleans without weapons or provisions, Jackson is said to have angrily retorted, "I've never seen a Kentuckian without a gun, a pack of cards, or a bottle of whiskey in my life." Over 1,000 Kentuckians played a central role in the decisive defeat of British regulars at the Battle of New Orleans. Nearly 26,000 Kentuckians served in some capacity in the War of 1812. According to New History of Kentucky, page 94, of the 1,876 Americans killed during the War of 1812, approximately 1,200 of them, or 64%, were Kentuckians. So Kentuckians lost. There's 1,200 Kentuckians that died because of fucking Henry Clay's loser of a war. This is fucking Vietnam, and all the Kentuckians died in this fucking Vietnam. Tell me about the War of 1812. Why don't you know about the War of 1812? You don't know shit about the War of 1812 because it was a dumb war that we fucking lost. Got nothing for it. The White House fucking burnt down. Tecumseh was fucking dead. You know, his education. How the fuck did he get so damn smart? He didn't go to school. Tecumseh never went to school. And yet he was leading fucking nations and putting the, you know, the colonists on the ropes for a long ass time. It was asymmetrical warfare. Took that long for you all to kill them motherfuckers? It took you that long. Star Spangled Banner came, they pinned it during the fucking War of 1812. Francis Scott Key, right, in Baltimore Harbor. The American mythos was solidified. But still, 1,200 Kentuckians died. 64% of all those that died was because of the motherfucking War of 1812, and 26,000. So that's just how many people died. The majority of them were Kentuckians, but how many more were injured? The legacy and the honors of this fucking war: Allen County, Ballard County, Edmonson County, which has Native Americans in it, right? Edmonson County is where the Green River is. Meade County, which is right here, right? Captain James Meade. These are all Custers. We are celebrating 9 different counties in Kentucky are celebrating fucking losers. We even have a Custer, Kentucky, the city, where they're, you know, fucking Custer's last stand. Hey, let's celebrate a military general that fucking lost. So not only are they fucking murdering and genocide Native Americans, but they lost. They weren't even good at it. Like, fucking commit. You know what I mean? Do one or the other, but don't be like fucking dying. Ballard was the only one that lived, so all of them: Colonel John Allen, Captain John Edmondson, Major Benjamin Franklin Graves of Graves County, Captain Nathaniel G.S. Hart of Hart County, Captain Pascal Hickman of Hickman County, Captain Virgil McCracken of McCracken County, Meade County, Captain James M. Meade in Simpson County after Captain John Simpson. None of them motherfuckers lived. They all fucking died. And then they got a county named after them because of the massacre of River Raisin, or the Battle of Frenchtown. Now, I don't know how they can say it's a massacre because these Kentuckians marched all the way from, Kentucky, or I think Lexington or something. They marched all the way from Kentucky all the way up to Detroit. And they ran into a shit ton of fucking Native Americans. So let's say these 9 counties again: Allen, Ballard, Edmondson, Graves, Hart, Hickman, McCracken, Meade, and Simpson County. 9 counties, and we got 120 of them. So 9 of them, that's a good swath of counties. All 9 of them, were named for the fucking losers who were invading another fucking Fort Detroit, and lost. So they weren't even fucking heroic fucking people. Those counties, I don't know. It'd be hard to fucking wear a fucking county's name when you didn't even fucking, you sucked. You sucked at what you did. So the Battle of Frenchtown, they were fighting, okay? It wasn't, these just give you an idea of the Native Americans who was against, Kentuckians marching all the way into Ohio. This ain't your land. Ohio wasn't, well, when did that become a fucking state? And who the fuck says Ohio was anybody's? This is George Washington invading the Ohio lands, right? The fucking great Northwest that George Rogers Clark supposedly opened up. But the proclamation line, who the fuck says any of this land was anybody? You know what I mean? Like, anyway, so the Native Americans that were there were Shawnee, Potawatomi, Ottawa, Chippewa, Delaware, Miami, Winnebago. Winnebago, they're the Ho Chunks. If you say Winnebago, you're a racist. That's called the people of the Stinking Creek. Fuck anybody who calls them a Winnebago. The people of the Stinking Creek, no, they're Ho Chunk people. the Creek Indians, Sauk, and the Fox tribes. So really, I think if you're going to do a study of the Battle of Frenchtown, you need to know who the fucking Shawnee, Potawatomi, Ottawa, Chippewa, Delaware, Miami, Winnebago, or the fucking Ho-Chunks, the Creek, Sauk, and the Fox tribes. You need to know who these tribes are, just as important as you know. In fact, I would say less. Their names are in posterity because they're named after counties. But these assholes, they didn't do nothing. They marched a really long ass fucking way, and then they lost. You know, they got up there and they fucking lost after like the first fucking day. They took the damn town. They knew they had it. They knew there was going to be reinforcements, and they were caught napping. They were having their pants down, and they eventually got, you know, fucking wiped out. They called it a massacre because they killed most of them. So it wasn't a massacre because they killed women and children like the massacre at the Mystic River, or, you know, some unjustified bullshit like the Boston Massacre. It was a massacre because, you know, like the massacre of the Mexican-American War. We went into their land and they started killing us, and they didn't stop until we were all dead. What a massacre. That's not a massacre. That's them defending their homeland against fucking invaders. Okay, so if it wasn't a so-called massacre, it would have been a massacre, right? Kentucky in the War of 1812, I think we're going to see the same numbers here, 26% or 64%. So Kentucky helped supply the war. Major supply depot was at Newport, the Newport Barracks. 120 counties are named for participants in the War of 1812. 22 of them, including 9 that were named after soldiers killed in the Battle of River Raisin. So it wasn't just 9 fucking counties that were named. It was 22 of Kentucky's counties. 20 fucking 2. And so some of them we already saw who was named after the fallen River Raisin officers. 9 fucking counties. But 22 of them were actually named for participants in the War of 1812. 22 out of 120. That's like a sixth. That's over a sixth of the counties of Kentucky were named for genocidal fucking maniacs fighting against Great Britain for no... They want to steal Canada. Kentuckians want to fucking take Canada, and they didn't get it, and so they lost, right? Why did Kentuckians want to acquire Canada? They weren't just happy in a poor man's country. I'll fucking tell you why. Because of fucking Henry Clay. Because the aristocratic war fucking imperializing fucking corporatist fucking elites, the owners of society, don't give a fuck about the poor. They don't give a fuck about slaves or the peasants or the immigrants or the women or the gays or anybody that's in traditionally marginalized or oppressed groups, because they're against you, the people. They don't like the people. The people are the fucking enemy. There's this old political quote that I heard that says something about every politician looks at the world as either A, their enemies, or B, the idiots. So for every politician, that's all they fucking got. They got a bunch of fucking enemies who's going to stop them from getting where they want to go. And then they got a bunch of fools that believe the fucking bullshit. Right? You think there's Kentuckians who voted for Mitch McConnell, voted for Rand Paul, knew what the fuck they're doing behind the scenes and shit? Nah. They're falling for the fucking political theater. They love the political theater so much, and that's what they bought into. And so that's just wild. Mitch McConnell just shows you, you know, the exact opposite of Ralph Nader. Ralph Nader can change the whole world and be a badass and just be right on every goddamn issue that he fucking talks about. So, but being right in politics doesn't make you president. Just like Henry Clay say, he'd rather be right than to be president. So Henry Clay, maybe if he was more like Mitch McConnell and played the fucking dance, right? Played the show. Maybe Ralph Nader, instead of being relevant and being right all the time, just worried about doing a little dance, doing a nice dog and pony show. Show the fucking world, hey, look at this. Look at this dog and pony show that I can fucking do. Look, I can play house. Look, I can have a tea party. Look at this shit. I'm a real important person. Nah, motherfucker, you ain't no important person. You tricked motherfuckers. You consolidated the fucking worst parts of Boone County's, Daniel Boone's fucking Kentucky, and you fucked Kentucky up. Kentucky could have been a badass fucking poor man's land, but still today we got corrupt fucking lawyers. We got a corrupt fucking system of judges and politicians and wealthy people. And the poor people are still getting fucked. There's a lot of decent people. People are making decent money, but there's a lot of fucking poor people. And that's how you know when a system is broke. Just by the presence of poor people. Just by having homeless. You got a system that's successful. Why the fuck you got homeless people? You guys are Christian? Built on Christian, Judaic fucking values? Yeah, right. I bet you're fucking built on genocide. And I bet you covered that shit up with some whitewashing of your Christian Judeo values. Fuck you. Henry Clay's a fucking slave owner, aristocratic fucking piece of shit plantation owner, consolidated throughout the white poor man's country that Daniel Boone was creating. He wasn't Mr. Self-reliant. He was Mr. Self-dependent. He was an oppressor, molester. He was over top of his fucking slaves. Other people was doing his fucking work for him. You know, there's just, he was a big fucking push the Kentuckians to go try to steal Canada in the War of 1812. All the Kentuckians died in the War of 1812, right? So all those fucking Kentuckians that believed in fucking Henry Clay are now dead, and there's nobody around for them. So Henry Clay did not fucking help Kentucky. His imperialism didn't fucking help Kentucky. It killed Kentuckians, and it won nothing. He won nothing. He won nothing for it. Tecumseh's dead forever. That's what I remember mostly about it. Yeah, they burned the White House down. Damn, you know, you'd think you would have heard something like that, right? The White House being burnt down is only burnt down one time. It was burnt down and by the great, you know, by the fucking British after the goddamn revolution. Why are we still fucking with them? Right after the revolution happened, you had Alexander Hamilton, and you had James Adams and fucking President George Washington, who went against the French Revolution and defeated the British right after the fucking revolution happened. They were kissing the British's fucking ass right after the revolution. Couldn't wait to get right back in the fold and become their fucking, the British fucking kings, the crown's subjects, yet once again. And 20 years fucking later, 30 years later, the fucking British came back and burnt down the White House. You give me a fucking break. They turned their back on the fucking French when the French were there fucking fighting for us. The French traders were known to be more fair with the natives. The French was down the Mississippi first. Louisville's named after a Frenchman. There's so much French culture all around and nobody even knows about this shit. Anyways, Henry Clay, fuck him. He ain't no fucking idol of mine. You know, pros and cons and shit, but by today's standards, 2014, he can kiss my fucking ass.